Hi, I'm Joan Raymond, and this is A Heart for Writing, where I provide support, encouragement, and resources for writers. Today, we're talking about writing and cover design and why it's important for your books to have an eye catching cover. On today's broadcast, I'm chatting with Cathy Walker, a published author with multiple books to her credit and more to come. Having lived in the Kawartha Lakes region in Canada for many years, she loves living on a farm, spending time with her various animals, many of them rescues. So let's bring Cathy into the studio. Hi, Cathy.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm great. And I do want to say this, it's interesting because Cathy and I have known each other, worked together for 3 years now. She does all my book covers, and I have never, ever talked to her other than just email. So to me, this is a thrill that she agreed to be on the show today. So I'm honestly thrilled to meet you and thrilled that
I'm
you're
just
here.
happy to be asked. Thank you.
Well, your covers are amazing, and we will talk about covers in a little bit. But first of
Okay.
all, I want to talk about your animals because the animals I know are huge in your life, and I want to some of your family members. Let's talk about these two little guys.
That's Morgana, the black one, and Merlin is the other little guy. And they're actually rescues from a TNR program, which is trap, neuter, release. And they try to find homes for cats from cat colonies from barns or properties. You know, they've either been left behind or and the cats just keep producing and reproducing. And there's a lot of sick ones, and they don't get any vet care. And so these ladies down in Lindsay do the trap, neuter, release, and then they try to find homes for the ones if they can't release them back to the colony. And they fix them and vet them and give them shots and everything, and they chip them. And so those two are a couple that I've welcomed to my barn, and they were very, very wild at first. I had to have them in a dog pen for like a big run for the first 6 weeks, I think it was, so they could get used to me and settle in and realize that was their home. Otherwise, as soon as I let them out, they would have run away, right?
Yeah.
So they're the biggest sucks now. I spent the time working with them and being patient and giving them all the love. So Merlin now greets me every time I go to the barn.
Aww.
And he follows me everywhere, and he's so playful and he's so loving. Morgana was a little bit harder to win her trust, but she now comes over to me for scratches and attention.
Aww.
And they're just such sweethearts. I just adore them.
And we should mention that, excuse me, we should mention you live on 50 acres. So
yes, we
have a
50
lot of,
acres.
you have a lot of
a huge barn.
Yes.
And I've had many animals over the years that are not all rescues, but most of them.
Yeah.
I like giving a home to an animal that needs it.
Right.
So
and then these guys, these are the newest.
Yep. That's Hershey and Butterscotch. The Butterscotch, the golden black one, is the mother, and Hershey is her daughter. And they're again from a rescue. And I had a squirrel as a pet that my dog had brought to us as a little 2-week-old baby. And I fed her and, kept her as a pet. And I adored her. She was, I have to say, the most fun pet I've ever had. And I just loved her. She was so crazy, and I'd let her run free around the house and, climb everywhere. And she was fun. Like she followed me. She'd jump into my arms, and she was adorable. But she had health problems. And I think that was probably why her mother may have kicked her out of the nest. And she ended up dying after about 6 months. So I wanted something to replace her. So I decided on guinea pigs, which are nothing like squirrels.
No.
A squirrel is wild and crazy and insane, and the guinea pigs don't climb or jump or run or do much of anything, but they're so adorable.
They squeak a lot.
They do. They make so many funny sounds, and I'm trying to learn what all the sounds mean, but they're very vocal in that respect. Yeah. So
that's very cool. So
they're living in our dining room right now, right behind me there.
Oh, okay. So if we hear any squeaking, it's not you. It's
them.
So let me ask you this. The same question I asked to all the authors that I interview is, when did you discover you had a heart for writing?
Oh, man. I started out actually writing poetry. I'd sit in school, like in high school. Instead of doing the work I was supposed to do, I'd be writing a poem or something, or a lyric or whatever. I think have to think back now. The first time I remember where we used to live, I was sitting there at my laptop one day and I just looked at my husband right out of nowhere and I said, I want to write a book. And it came literally out of nowhere because I had had no intentions before that of writing a book. And he said, go for it. And that would have been back in 2008, I believe.
Wow. Okay.
And I started writing and I wrote, and my first manuscript didn't see the light of day. So I wrote a second one and it kind of went on from there. But the first one that I wrote sat on my laptop for years. And it is the one that I recently published, Pandora's Quest.
Wow.
It started out as Guardians of Atlantis, but I changed the name. I did some serious editing on it because first manuscripts are notoriously not very well written.
True.
I did a lot of fixing up and I really wanted to publish the story. So I fixed it up and I published it. So it's my most recent release, even though it was the first one that I ever wrote.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And as an author, your books cover a wide range of subjects, mostly myths, I can't talk. Can't read either.
That's okay.
Myths, legends, romance, and paranormal. Where do you get your inspiration from?
Reading. Myths. I mean, my books, you've got Greek mythology and Arthurian mythology and the Salem witches. So, a lot of historical events that people are fascinated by also fascinate me, Atlantis and Avalon and places like that. So that's kind of just history, history, I guess. Yeah.
So it's write what you know. In other words, those are the books that you read about and the things
yes.
that you love. So.
Yes.
And your Salem Witch series, which you just talked about, is your bestseller. Although your Arthurian, I can't say that.
Arthurian?
Yes.
King Arthur.
King Arthur.
Yes.
Follows closely behind. So, so like the Greek mythology one, you said focuses on Pandora and those quests. And so which ones do you enjoy? This is a hard one to ask an author, but which ones do you enjoy writing the most?
I really think I have a soft spot for Sword Across Time, which is my Arthurian mythology. Okay. I don't know why, but I just really, I don't know. I love them all, but there's something about that one that I really like. And there may be a sequel to it eventually. Who knows? Yeah, I could do that, but we'll see what happens. Right now, witches are hugely popular. Right. So I'm staying on that theme. I'm working on a trilogy right now that involve witches again. So. Okay. And
I was going to show this picture. So this is your Salem Witch series, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to say anything about these? A little blurby thing about them?
Well, they take place obviously in Salem, Massachusetts, and the main core of the story is based loosely on the Salem witch trials. But it is fiction, and even though there's some excerpts and references to the actual trials, and there's some characters from history that were involved in the trials, it's not meant to be factual. It's not meant to be a factual rendition of what happened, because there's this dark evil force, and historically speaking, there weren't really even any witches involved in the trials. These were all innocent people. So it's definitely fiction. I have had a few comments from people who get, a little upset. It's like, well, that's not what happened. Well, obviously it's not. It's fiction. It's meant to be fiction. It's obviously you've got this dark force possessing people, and it's fiction. But there are facts in it, scattered here and there. And it takes place in Salem. And I mention actual places in Salem. And I try to stay true to certain aspects of things while making it a total fiction.
Right. Yeah. And that's the beauty of fiction, is you can
I can do what I want.
Make your new story. Yes.
And people love it. I mean, the reviews that I get from people surprise me, but really help motivate me. People, when I get somebody saying that they loved it so much they couldn't go to sleep, they spent up all night reading it, or someone who said, she was vacuuming and just kept vacuuming while she was reading the book in the other hand. And, I love hearing that, because I'm the typical author who totally lacks self-confidence. I need that motivation to keep me writing because I doubt myself so much. And then I'll reread my writing and say, well, that's really good. Or I'll get someone who leaves me a really good review. It's like, oh. On the other hand, if I get a bad review, it's like a punch to the gut. It's like, oh, I'm going to be sick. You have to deal with it. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and you know what? Our writing isn't for everybody. I got a 2-star review one time and it just killed me. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But then I realized out of all the reviews I've gotten, that's that person's opinion and that's okay. But still, it kind of like stops you for a half a second.
Well, it does. But like when you have, I have probably about an average of about 90% 4 and 5-star reviews. So I can handle bad reviews. What I do, and I don't know if this is good or bad, but when I get a bad review, I go to authors, I won't mention names, but really big name authors, and I'll read their bad reviews. And I'm like, okay, if they can get reviews that are that bad, then I'm okay getting a bad review. So that makes me feel better.
Yeah. That's a good one. That's a good thing to do because it's not just us,
Exactly. It makes
we're not the big people, that we think about, but they get bad reviews too. And sometimes
some of them are really bad.
Very scathing reviews that would be like, wow.
That does make it easier for me to deal with bad reviews, but
well, just know that bad reviews are part of it. I mean, and when you get your bad review, you're in the club now. So, you're
no, I'm writing about stuff like witches and, witchcraft and magic and some of the, Merlin the magician and all this kind of stuff. And Christianity did not have a very good history, let's just say overall. And, I'm nice about it, but I kind of say how things were back in the time of the Crusades and everything. Christianity didn't really, we just won't go down there. So anyway, I'm really nice about it, but some people get really upset. Somebody gave me a review and said that the fact that I took their Lord and brother's name in vain, she gave me a really bad review because someone said, I don't know, Christ or something like that, So you can't please everybody.
No.
When you're writing about controversial subjects, you can't please everybody. You're going to get bad reviews.
Well, we all have an audience, and when that audience does not read our books, they're not going to like them, and that's just the way it is, And some people pick up a book thinking it's going to be something else. I applaud you. And the other thing is writers, we kind of write on our own, and then we throw it out in the world. So once it's out in the world has this idea that they can say what they want. Now, I'm curious, do you have a critique group? Do you show it to anybody before you throw it out there? Or
I have actually, my first 5 books were actually traditionally published with small press publishers. So there was an editor that went over all of them. Was it 2 or 3? Actually, maybe it was just my first 4 books. Anyway, the last few I have relied on Pro Writing Aid for editing, and I have some readers who I send it to who will read it over and give me feedback on the story and catch, the spelling errors and everything that I may not have caught. So yeah, it gets read over by other eyes before I publish it.
Yeah, that's what I do. I use Pro Writing Aid and then a group of beta readers.
Yeah. But you know what? Even when my books were edited, there were still errors. There were still spelling errors.
I agree. I see them in traditionally published books all the time.
Oh, I do. There's one quirk, one thing that really bugs me. This is one of my pet peeves. The term "I couldn't care less." Some people, and I've seen it written in books. People say, "I could care less." Authors are writing, "I could care less." Well, like if you could care less, it means you could actually care less. You're not saying what you're meaning. And I've caught that a few times in books. And there's just certain things that dump out at you that, should have been edited out. But
once you're a writer, it ruins reading books for you forever.
So. It kind of does. And everyone's got their little pet peeves that really jump out at them.
Yep.
But that's one of mine anyway.
So I'm going to show these book covers one more time.
Okay.
And then I'm going to show this one more time because these are all covers that Cathy has done. And we are here today to talk about book covers. And I want to say that So, like I said, I met Cathy when this is my first book that I published in 2019. And the original cover is the one on the left. And I posted it in a group and said, "Hey, what do you think of this cover?" And they all like, "Well, it'd be great if it was like a Sherlock Holmes." And I'm like, "No,
Yeah.
it's got some romance in it. It's got some paranormal stuff in it." And I remember Cathy in the group, she said, "Well, maybe it should look more like this." And that wasn't the exact picture. It was a different one that she showed that she'd just done. And it made me realize that, wow, um, we were really, I mean, that picture, it meant a lot to me because there's a hat and there's glasses and there's a journal inside the story, but it didn't it didn't even say what the book was about. And then
Yeah.
when she got a hold of it, it was like, oh my gosh, yes, this is the cover it should have had. And so I did. I switched covers on KDP, which is not that hard to do.
No,
So
it's easy.
um but anyway, yeah, you took my homemade book cover and turned it into something spectacular. So let's talk about book covers. How long have you designed them?
Probably 5 years, I think. A friend of
Okay.
mine actually mentored me, and I was looking for another source of income at that time. I really needed some extra money coming in. And so she mentored me in Photoshop and designing covers, and I've kind of just taken it from there.
Mhm.
And I have to say, the money from designing book covers got us through a few tough times. So I
Yeah.
really appreciate the time that my friend spent teaching me. And I really enjoy designing covers. And Photoshop is a huge program. I mean, I might know maybe 1/20th of everything that there is to do with this program,
Mhm.
but I know enough of it to do what I need for covers.
Right. Well, you've
Yeah.
done 5 of my covers.
Yeah.
I have 4 books published, and the 5th one is in editing, but you've done 5 of mine, and I know I'm not going anywhere else. So
Oh, your covers are so much fun to design. They're the kind I love doing cozy mystery covers. They're so much
um,
fun. Yeah.
but even my middle grade adventure ones, those are the ones everybody loves those
Yeah.
with, the dog and everything on
Yeah.
them. So let me ask you this. What's the most important thing when you're designing a book cover? What is it that
Well,
you
a book cover has two purposes, and that's it. They are meant to attract the attention of somebody scrolling through Amazon, and they get that split second to see the cover, and they're meant to define the genre, and that's it. So what I have to do is make it attractive, and I have to know what people are expecting, whether it's a romantic book or a fantasy or a cozy mystery or thriller suspense kind of book. They all have a different look to them, and it's not important. A lot of people want the characters on their book to be exactly like the character in the book, or they want an exact scene from within the book. But you know what? None of that matters. It really just has to be attractive, and it has to show what the genre is at a glance, so that when the reader clicks on your book cover, they're not disappointed because they find it something totally different than the cover portrayed.
Right.
So that's what I keep in mind, is just that I'm getting the genre right, and it looks good.
Yeah.
So that's basically the most important thing when designing a cover.
And so, like, authors like myself with absolutely no design experience at all. So what would you say for someone like me? Why should I hire a professional? Why can't I just go and throw a
Oh,
couple things
because book
together
covers,
on Canva?
yeah, book covers are so much more important than most new authors realize. Again, it helps with sales because it will stop that person from scrolling. The book cover is meant as a hook. Okay, the blurb is meant to the book cover gets the person to your Amazon page. The blurb gets the person to buy the book, and the book itself gets the person to buy the next book.
Right.
So the cover is the original. Without a good cover, then the whole chain breaks down and you lose a sale, right? Covers not only help with sales, but they help when you're marketing. If you want to get like a BookBub deal or something, they're not going to look at your cover or your book if it doesn't have a good cover on it. When you're spending money on marketing at some of these promo like Fussy Librarian or Bargain Booksy or anything like that, if you have a bad cover, you might as well just forget it. You're not going to make sales.
Right.
You could write the best book out there, but if you have a bad cover or a homemade cover on it, people are going to look at the cover and go, oh, and they're going to just pass by because they're going to figure that the effort you put into the cover is pretty much what you put into the book. And that may not be the case.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people can't afford a cover, but it's vital to your sales and marketing of your book. Without it, you've lost the game already.
That's the one place that I do put money in,
It's
that I
important.
make sure, because I want my covers to reflect what I've done,
Yeah.
and I know a lot of people are like, I can do it myself. And it's like, well,
And I understand that want to do it yourself and be in control and everything else, but I also understand not having the money, being so totally flat broke you can't afford even, to put gas in your car. I've been there. I know what it's like. But covers don't have to be expensive.
right.
You can spend hundreds. You can, on a fully illustrated cover, you can get into $1,000, $1,500. But there are so many pre-made. There's a glut on the market right now of pre-made covers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you can get them for $50. Now, if you can't afford to spend $50 on, if you're trying to make this a business to make money from it, $50, you have to find it somewhere.
Right.
Save it up, while you're writing the book and editing it, put aside $5 or $10 a month. Buy a decent cover. It doesn't have to be a great cover, but it has to be a good professional looking cover.
And on your website, you have a lot of covers that people can
do. Yeah.
And I don't have all the covers because to scroll through them all would take a while. But in the description, when you're watching this, in the description, we're going to have Cathy's, her author website, her Facebook page, her cover design website, and also her cover design Facebook group. All of her different places. But when you go to her site, and you'll see she's got several covers that are made, and you can just slip your name and the book title in there, and so
Yep.
it's not like it's going to cost and take a lot of time. And one thing, since I have worked with you for 3 years, I will throw out ideas, and you always come back with a lot of times what I think I want. And then you're like, but what about this? And it just elevates it to, such a higher level. And it's like, wow, I never even thought about that, but
I try to give my client, I've had some clients tell me it's like I'm reading their mind.
Yes,
which is good. But I'm a good designer. I'm not one of the best, but my prices reflect my skills, and I can do some really nice covers that are on genre and professionally done.
Right.
And
you work pretty quick too. You work pretty quick.
Yeah,
it's not like it's a 6-month thing waiting.
No, I'm not booked up ahead of time by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
Right now, all my covers on my website, all my pre-mades are on sale for $50.
Wow.
And there's some on there that I just love. They're really nice covers. And some that are a bit older where my skills weren't quite as developed, but they're still nice covers,
If I could only write faster and other genres, I would pick several of them up because I love them.
I wish I could write faster too. I am not a prolific writer at all. But
yeah, I'm a book a year, maybe 2 book a year type thing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So what advice, when it comes to writing, both writing and cover design? So if you want to answer separately, go ahead and answer separately. So let's just ask it separately. When it comes to writing, what advice do you have for brand new writers?
There's so much to know. It can be overwhelming. Take it a step at a time. Ask questions. Don't get over anxious to get that first book out there. Make sure that you're going to do it right, because once you're out there, and if it's a bad book, badly written or whatever, you're kind of starting with a reputation that you don't really want. Make sure you're getting it right. Make sure it's edited. Make sure you have a good cover. But get on some of the groups and ask questions. But as with anything on the internet, you have to be aware of where the information is coming from. So make sure that you know that the people who are giving you advice actually know what they're talking about. Right. If you get someone who's never been published and just a new writer, and they're telling you this, that, and everything else, well, you might want to listen to someone who's actually got the experience. And beware of scams. There are so many scam artists out there, for editing or covers or
vanity publishing
or vanity publishing, and they'll take everything from you, and not you. you're going to have to market your book, whether you go traditionally published or self-published. You're going to end up doing the marketing anyway. I'm a big advocate for self-publishing because it's a lot of work, and you have to know a lot, and you have to learn all aspects of the industry. You can't just kind of leave everything up to the publisher to do, but you also make a lot more money out of it. I don't know. That's a whole other subject, and I could get into a whole bunch of reasons, but you have to do the research, I guess, is the best thing. Research, know what it is you're doing before you get into either traditional or self-publishing. Make sure the information you're getting from people is from people that know what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. It takes time, and it's not a get rich quick scheme. There's no getting rich quick about it. You have to put in a lot of work and a lot of hours. But I know many authors who are making very, very good money, self-published authors.
Yep. It's because they didn't quit, and they just kept putting books out there.
Well, and they're taking it seriously, and they're treating it like a business.
That's just it.
Yeah, exactly. But everyone that says, oh, you never make money self-publishing, that is not true. I know so many authors who are making good money.
Yeah. 5-6 figures. Yeah.
Oh, easily. Yeah. 7 figures, even some of them, self-published authors. And they're, I'm getting there. I'm going to get there.
Good for you.
Good a lot of work.
Yes. Yeah. And then the other advice is for cover design. For a brand new author, or maybe someone that's deciding, they're looking at all their book covers and they're like, ugh, I think I'm off the mark completely. What advice do you have for them?
Well, there's a lot of designers out there right now. There are so many cover designers and so many new cover designers. It's like everyone has jumped on the bandwagon and wants to do it. Just know what it is that you want for your cover, and make sure, I don't know, do a little research of your own and check out the genres and what other books in your genre. Get a cover from your designer. Make sure it's comparable to the ones that are out there in the top 100. Not every designer out there knows what they're doing, so just don't leave it 100% up to them, unless like by now Joan knows she can trust me, so she kind of leaves it up to me, and that's great. But when you're with a designer for the first time, unless they have a really good reputation and they can do it, just make sure that what they're giving you is a good cover. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to spend a ton of money either.
I want to add something. To work with a designer, like Cathy and I have worked together, and it's only been by email. I mean, there's not been any phone conversations or anything. It's all been by email, but communication. She was always open and saying, okay, I've put this together. What do you think? And then I knew I could be honest and say, well, it's not exactly what I pictured. And she would go do something. I mean, she's not going to do it 27 times, but I think usually within about 3 or 4 times, we had it pretty nailed down. I mean, there was a couple things that maybe, okay, I didn't like the look of this dog, or I didn't like, maybe the cat was too big or too small, but I mean, little things like that. And it's just, communication is really important to,
it is,
because you have to have in your mind what I'm thinking, and then also to put it down. Anyway, just communication and patience.
Yeah.
Because it's not like I can give you everything and you just, whip it up right that second.
We have clients that we call them unicorn clients, where they say, you just design a cover for me, and you design it, send the concept, they love it, they pay for it, and that's it. Like, there's not even any changes or anything. I love clients like that. But for the most part, and then there's the extreme as well. People who want, oh, can you move the font here, change it here, changes. Right. Like I have done, and I have started putting my foot down, because I'm more confident in my skills now. But when I first started, again, I have no confidence, right? Yeah. And so I thought, well, maybe they do know better than me. And I did for one client, I had to do dozens and dozens of changes. And I finally just said, no, that's enough. I can't keep doing this. Mm-hmm. And so I know my skills have improved, and I know the genres, and I know what I'm doing a lot better now. So I can kind of guide, like if a client comes to me and says they want something and I know it's not going to work, I know it's not going to fit the genre, then I feel better about saying, well, maybe we should do this instead, because this is kind of more typical of this genre and yours isn't going to fit. So yeah, communication is important.
Yeah, and listen to
And
listen to the cover designer that has a lot more experience than.
well, that's the thing, you know, we do hundreds and hundreds or thousands and thousands in some cases, and we know the genre, we know what works, what doesn't work. We've got the skills. It's not to say that the client shouldn't have an input, because definitely they should,
Right.
but you work together to get a good cover in the end.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Cathy, thank you so much. I really appreciate learning your process, learning more about your animals. I follow you on Facebook, of course, so
Yes.
I know all the little quirky things that are going on with the little guineas and
All my
everything.
animals, my horses. I had a herd of 12 goats
Oh my
for a
goodness!
while. That I got them all when they were babies, and they were bottle fed, and I had them like from baby until they died.
Wow.
And goats make amazing pets. I adored them. They're smart, they're funny, they're affectionate. We used to go for walks around the property, and they'd just follow along like a little herd, and
That's
I'd call
funny.
them and they'd come running, and they're so smart. Like, they knew their names, they came when they were called. They were actually better trained than my dogs.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Yes, I like having animals around
Yeah,
for sure.
I think we all need animals. Well, I mean, we have 2 cats and 2 dogs, and they're all rescues. So,
Well, they have an energy and unconditional love,
yes,
going through certain periods and in my life, I go down to the barn, and animals keep me sane. Let's just
yeah.
put it that way.
And
Yeah.
when we write, they're right there next to us most of the time. Sometimes
Yeah.
on the keyboard, which is not thrilling, but
Yeah.
they are our companions when there's nobody
Yeah.
else around. So, and like I said, all of Cathy's information is in the description. So if you're interested in just seeing her designs, if you're interested in following her or looking at any of her books or anything like that, just check it out. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.